Hello YouTube again. We're going to react to Dungeons and Raids should not be endgame only. MMO opinion. It is. It looks beautiful from what I say. Josh by Josh Strife Hayes. Third attempt is the charm, Veronica. Third attempt is the charm. But yes, we're gonna watch this video for now. I have a lot of videos lined up today, so it's gonna be fun. Let's watch some Josh Strife. Josh Strife says, yes, he's gonna say a lot as in his Josh Strife.
Skirmishes, dungeons, and raids.
Hello.
Content in many MMORPGs.
Yes.
Often large-scale, team-based challenges where a mix of players with different classes, skills, and specializations work together to take down a massive multi-mechanic boss and earn some epic
Or
loot.
several bosses.
Now, usual design has dungeons and raids as the content you reach after hours and hours of early game grinding, but I think dungeon and raid-like experiences should be available for all players from the very start of an MMORPG.
Yeah.
People are often saying the MMO has become less social, and we need to find ways to help encourage player interaction, mechanics which facilitate the whole multiplayer element of the MMO acronym. Then there are players saying they feel apprehensive about being thrown into multiplayer content and not quite knowing what to do, being given a sudden surge of responsibility for other players. And then you have old players lament how they can't team up with their lower level mates because there's very little content which applies to both of them. Well, early game dungeons and raids could potentially address all of these things without compromising the solo experience. So, let's discuss.
Yeah.
Welcome, I'm Josh Strife Hayes. I've played a lot of MMORPGs, and one of the design choices I see most often, a trope of the genre if you will, is dungeons and raids need to be end-game content.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid, honestly. I feel like that's a lot of the reason why MMOs in general have become very end-heavy, where the most important parts of the game is always the ending, like basically whatever is happening at the end, because you get there, and only after you get there, after grinding, only after you arrive there, you can like engage in all these massive scale events, dungeons, raids, and all that stuff. I think World of Warcraft is a good game, all things considering, but it does suffer from this kind of issue a little bit, because all the people who play WoW, they don't really play around the big raids, the big end game content, quote unquote, because you do have this leveling process every time that happens, and you only play the process of the raids and the bosses at the end of everything. From what I can understand personally, again, what we'll be speaking about, New World also has that issue, and I think Final Fantasy XIV doesn't really have that issue, because raids, there's raids and dungeons as early as ultimately very early, but it still does have the thing where you just need to level up for a little bit. There's a few ways you can level up early. There's the challenges that pop up and you can queue for. There's other dungeons that you already went through. So when you already went through some dungeons, you can return to those dungeons. You can do other dungeons solo, stuff like this. The level sync is kind of cool though. I heard they have a feature of level sync. And it's kind of cool because it syncs you to the level and item level of what's... No, just level. It syncs you to the level of what the other players are for this particular dungeon, for this particular level, and it's kind of cool. So this entire thing is basically all about the experience itself rather than about how you perceive things. Rather than the rewards is what I want to say. Rather than the rewards, it's all about the experience, which is yeah, I think it's good. I like that. I think that's sort of a great way of perceiving things in the grand scheme of MMO. When you have these big dungeons, big group content events, big raids for like 50 people, all of it is all about the event itself. like the seeing the images, fighting the boss fights, doing the mechanics. People still rush through them. Like I noticed, a lot of people still rush through them, at least in the videos I watched. But at the very least, they don't really rush through it in kit for the sake of rushing through it. They rush through it because the bosses are really fun. They rush through it because all the events are kind of cool. And honestly, I think that's I think people should be able to experience these kind of things early level because I think everyone can agree with me here that the epitome of game design when it comes to MMOs is the raids, is the dungeons. All of that is the hate of everything. So the earlier you can get them, the earlier you can actually sink your teeth into what most designers spend the biggest amount of effort in. That's just how it is. And the fact that a lot of companies don't take that advice and just push it on the opposite end of it, and that's the same mentality a lot of people say when they play 100 hours of this game. After you play 100 hours of this game, you will absolutely love this game because this is where all the cool content is. That is bullshit. That is stupid. Nobody will play a stupid game for 1 hour, for 100 hours. Nobody has that amount of time. I have that amount of time because I'm streaming every day. But some random Joe with 3 kids doesn't have that much time, so he won't play it. For 1 hours, he will just move onto a game that hooks him immediately, or like at least closer to like 2 hours of play. If it doesn't hook him in 2 hours, he will leave. So yeah, I think it really does come into putting your strong foot up forward. If you don't put your strong foot forward, you're just fucked. Your game will eventually succumb. Yeah, I guess that's a part of why I think a lot of MMOs from 2009 failed. If you think about it, there was a lot of attempts to emulate WoW, but they didn't have as much. They didn't have so much charm to them. They didn't have so much character and backstory to them. The world was not established at all in all of those MMOs. So the only thing they have going for them is the dungeons and raids. But because they emulated or PvP. If it's a PvP, it's a PvP game. It was a PvP game. But those reasons for failure are completely different from more normal MMOs. Normal MMOs, they didn't have a lot of stuff behind them. So they didn't really manage to catch the attention of a lot of people because, let's be real, World of Warcraft may have fell off a little bit in terms of popularity among the people at large, considering the whole Blizzard drama, the whole everything, every mess surrounding it. But the world is beautiful, the lore is recognizable, the classes, the battle system is cool, the raids. I guess the old raids were cool, even hard. Right now you have you need to have 100 add-ons to even play them, which is kind of stupid in my opinion. But never mind that. Yeah, let's just the earlier you can make content available for MMOs, the better. Yes.
As in, you must slog through the rest of the game to get to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I find this a shame. Because dungeons and raids are some of the best experiences you can have in an MMORPG.
Yes.
They facilitate multiplayer content, allowing you to team up with your friends or the community.
Yeah. Raids and dungeons also serve as an amazing building block for the guilds. They serve as a main building block for the guilds. Every time you encounter someone in a raid or a dungeon, you will most likely kind of notice them because usually the players who go hardcore in this kind of content, they're similar in mentality in a lot of ways. So people are more likely to get into groups with each other, like more permanent groups with each other, if they interact with each other through this kind of content. Especially if they're allowed to interact with each other through this kind of content in the early stages of the game. Because the later game, most people will most likely just not give a fuck. They will do the game solo. all they want to really to do is to earn the biggest stick around and just run around solo and exist in the same space with other people and show off their biggest stick. That's the prestige factor here. So not a lot of people like actively here look for friends, and if they do, you know, awkward MMO players not exactly are very good at socializing things.
They're also a great way of teaching new players mechanics, both relevant to their class and relevant
Yes.
to the in-game environment specifically. If your game is going to become about dungeons and raids, then setting that as the foundation is a really good starting point.
I feel like that is a good point as well. A lot if the game revolves around the open world with the dungeons that basically solidify everything you learn within the open world. Because let's be real, the open world isn't that fun. Not a lot of games can really pull off open world questing in the manner that would be fun. Because all you really do, like if you get down to the nitty gritty of it, all you really do is run around and kill mobs. Talk to someone. Go to talk to someone. Go kill 3 bears. Return back. Get item. Continue on. The only tangible way for me, for you to make a really engaging open world experience, is if you actually really push forward the whole narrative thing. Like you have the cutscenes, you have the characters, recurring characters, you have all the story revolving around the central narrative that leads you throughout the leveling experience. If you have that, or either that or the open world game inherently facilitates teaming up with someone. So like you include some world bosses into the whole thing. You include some big things that cannot be defeated alone into the whole open world process. That might make hey Aaron, I'm just talking about MMO design. I will always include a Josh Strife Hayes video in my media shares, because I do find myself interested in rambling about game design a lot, and it doesn't hurt that he knows a lot of things. We're watching Dungeons and Raids should not be in game only. MMO opinion in one of his latest videos. Haven't watched it, so. We're 1 minute 45 minutes in, and I have been rambling for 20 minutes. I'm pretty sure I have been rambling for about 30 minutes. And we're just 1 minute 45 seconds in. I talk a lot. What was I speaking is that dungeons and raids are ultimately the bread and butter of the MMO. They should be the centerpiece of the leveling process. In that, okay, so what was I speaking around before? Okay, so you have this open world, right? You have this oldest dungeon. Go kill 10 bear asses. Return back, and get your cool trinket, and then go to this faceless NPC and go kill more 10 bear asses. And I was explaining how. Yeah. I don't really play a lot of MMOs, but I think MMOs is the definition of as the definition of the most nuanced game design possible. I think in how you approach things. It's a very nuanced game design. Like if you really think about it, right? So, like, okay, returning to my point. The only ways to make that kind of the open world interesting, open world questing, is to have a culmination of all the boring setup, being the dungeons, raids, whatever the hell related to the story, be it the interesting story, or 3 incentive to be grouped up. Those 3 reasons. None of those reasons are really being pushed in a lot of the more failed MMOs. Final Fantasy pushes the story. Final Fantasy also pushes early dungeons pretty well, though they often are unrelated, especially like considering the early game in Final Fantasy XIV is Realm Reborn. It has a lot of the stretched out content because yeah. The open world is still kind of, from what I can understand. Even the footage from earlier, you just kind of running around and killing with rats or something. That's basically the definition of the definition of level 1 MMO scrub.
You build off what your game will become in a simpler version of what it will become. New players that are joining your MMO for the first time, or experienced players coming from another game to yours, don't want to feel that they're playing through an irrelevant section of your game before getting to the good bit.
Again, yeah, that's the same. That's the same part of why a lot of MMOs lose players early, because like the older players say, "Oh, yeah, it's the staple level 1 life, absolutely." But yeah, that's what he said. Like a lot of people, a lot of MMOs lose players early because they are effectively playing through an irrelevant beat of content. Like everything is here is irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. No support is given. No items here are relevant. Nothing here is relevant. Why am I playing this? Why do I need to play 100 hours of that before I can go play the relevant bits where everyone else is playing? My friends is there. My friends is already there. My friends recommended me this game and they're there. Why do I need to go 100 hours of that? Considering the fact that they can't even join me in that 100 hours, because it's really a waste of time for them as well. Why do you have to go through all of that to get to the good parts? Why? Even RPGs, like RPGs have all the cool stuff in early levels, all the cool story stuff, all the cool item stuff they get like all the time. Sure, it's not MMO, it's not online, but still, they at least have the decency to have some enjoyable process. I mean, yes, I guess part of the game time, but MMOs are always updated. There's always something to do. There's no reason to pad out the game time, because there's always something to do. People run through dungeons and raids bajillion times because of the item drop rates. If they want to get something, they role play. They do whatever they want in the MMO. You don't need to pad out an MMO, because padding out an MMO often will result in people leaving you. They will not want to play a padded out content. That's just how it is.
What it could be. People don't want to feel like your early game is filler. And one of the best ways to make players feel that they are always playing something relevant is to allow dungeons, raids, or multiplayer group content to be available from the very start.
Yes. True. To be fair, though, I think so to give the justification to buy the pass that instantly puts you at the end of the day. Yes, yeah. Everyone, even like I think Final Fantasy 14 has that one, which I don't really. Yeah. Raids are random from the. It's annoying. Like, why would you bar your new players from something so incredible? Why? They will, if you like, even if we go from a justification of gamers, players, whatever the hell, gamers paying money for like cosmetics and shit, right? Or spending time and getting more invested and paying buying stuff from it, buying expansions. You will win in the end if you provide them with just if you just provides if you just provide these things from the very beginning. If you have the cool beginner raids, if you have cool beginner trials against mighty bosses, if you have cool dungeons from the very beginning, those players who experience that epic content, they will most likely go forward with the stars in their eyes, and they'll, there is more of that. I should play this game more, and this cosmetic is cool. I should buy it maybe. Like, even from monetary incentive, they will most likely buy something cool if they enjoy the game and play the game and continue playing the game. They will buy all your expansions. They will buy everything. Why do you think Final Fantasy became so popular? They have free trial up to level 60, right? So they can experience whatever they want without paying anything, right? Right. Two, they have one of the earliest dungeons I have seen in any MMO ever. You just kind of go through a lot of simple stuff, and immediately on level 11 or something, you're already experiencing the trials and dungeons. Immediately, or like even earlier. Raids get along a little later, but raids, and raids are the spectacle. Don't get me wrong, raids are also a spectacle. That the Crystal Tower, I saw a video of Crystal Tower, amazing thing. But again, they have the failure of not allowing an earliest raid. Raids are amazing. Raids are a very definition of what a culmination of an MMO. A giant army of players storming a castle full of mighty bosses with mechanics and interesting scenarios. This is the epitome of what MMO is. And yet nobody is allowed to play it in the beginning. What the hell is that? It's so weird to me, right? The more people enjoy something, the more they're likely to buy something, the more they're likely to play it. A lot of people who like an MMO, they never go to another MMO. I mean, they do check it out. They do check out other MMOs, but they always have this one MMO they enjoy really a lot. It did kind of lead to a lot of tribalism, though, all things considering, that if you have this MMO and if you don't play this MMO, oh, you're betrayed. You saw that in Asmongold's situation when he decided to go play Final Fantasy XIV. There was a lot of people in the community who went, "Oh, you're so toxic, man. You're gonna ruin our game with your fan base, with your WoW fan base." And everyone, and on the other side, the WoW fanatics would, "Oh, you're gonna play this weeb game, weeb furry game." And I'm like, okay, furry game. Mm-hmm. Have you looked at the like bajillion furry races in your game yet? And all the fucking porno art of them. Can you really tell me that this is not that World of Warcraft? World of Warcraft is not a freaking furry game. Can you tell me that? Seriously, can you tell me that? It's not a furry game. Totally not. But yes, tribalism is always going to be a part of gaming. But it's more pronounced, I think, in MMO because MMOs are supposed to be the forever games. MMOs are supposed to be the place where you spend years in, right? Like if everything goes to plan, most MMOs exist, even like the failed ones exist for at least 10 years. And there's some players who have been playing this the entire way through, right? And even then, after they might shut down, like say WildStar has private servers. WildStar still functions to this day. WildStar is still active to this day, even though it's shut down. They have private servers. That like people were so damn, ow. Why you bonk me? Don't bonk me. I'm good. I'm talking about MMOs. No bonking.
Before we begin, a massive thank you to
Yeah.
all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel alive. You've been asking if I'll put the Patreon names on 2 pages. No, I won't. The text will just keep getting smaller. More information on how you can support at the end. For now, let's talk dungeons. To understand why...
WildStar was good. I tried it out. It was good, but there was a lot of issues that it really dragged it down to the level that it became basically unpopular to a certain extent. One thing I think WildStar had going for it is the stylized graphics, because really I think I agree with that situation, and that nobody really wants nobody really wants realistic graphics in this time of day of age, because when you do stylized art style like World of Warcraft, it's been 20 years. It's been around 20 years. Yeah, it's been around 18 years, I'd say. It's been around 18 years since the game came out, right? Yeah, somewhere around that. 18 years, right? And the game still looks good. Like, it looked good, it looks good. Because it has an art style, it has direction, it has its own specialized brand of thing. Thank you, Lord Vanex, for the gifted sub. Enjoy your emotes, Merlin. Enjoy your emotes. I love them. Made by our wonderful Aya. Enjoy them. Enjoy them. Enjoy them. And thank you, Lord Vanex. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm rambling about MMOs right now, so don't mind me. We have been supposedly watching for 15 minutes video and have been rambling on and on and on and on and on and on for 30 minutes, and I have been watched only 2 minutes and 35 seconds of that video. So this should tell you everything about my rambling style. But yes. What was I saying? Right. I was speaking about the stylization. Stylized graphics will always triumph over the realistic, because realistic will always end up less realistic than the next realistic thing, and there will be even more realistic thing, and the more realistic thing after that, and maybe after a while they will fucking turn everything in live action, because they will be able to produce normal people, clone normal people, and do games with like real world graphics, and everyone will be so much graphics, but the game itself will be always shallow as fuck. Like the real world. Thank you for the subscription, Lord Vanex. Enjoy.
Vanex just subscribed.
Enjoy your yes, realistic. Enjoy your emotes for the next foreseeable future. I'm glad you decided to join the librarians, so to speak. Yes. But yeah, realistic. It's just so weird to me that the realistic thing is like the new fad. I personally enjoy more stylistic choices. I personally enjoy playing something that has a unique style to it. It doesn't really have to have high end graphics that needs RTX 390 to play. I don't really want that. I don't really need that, right? I want a game that I will remember. I want a game that is timeless. A lot of I'd say Final Fantasy has that style to it. Final Fantasy 14 has that style to it. WildStar definitely had that style to it, because no matter how much time passes, you look back at it, you'll still recognize WildStar. You'll still recognize WildStar, right? Screenshots of WildStar, everything WildStar. You look at World of Warcraft, and you'll immediately recognize World of Warcraft, because it's World of Warcraft and it has its unique style. You look at any game, any shooter, Call of Duty, right? Any game, Call of Duty or Call of Duty. You look at Call of Duty. Can you really tell them apart from each other? Like, what is that? Can you really? It's just normal dudes in military gear. All of them are normal dudes in military gear. I watched a COD gameplay. I can't really tell which is which. I genuinely cannot. At least Halo has its own like unique art style and unique armor sets and backgrounds and everything. You can recognize it. Mass Effect also has its unique thing with what that style did. Aliens, you can recognize that. But like COD, what the fuck is COD? Yeah, I can't tell the modern ones apart anymore. Absolutely. If you produce a realistic game, I think you should place it in a specific recognizable cultural stance. Like, okay, look at Hunt Showdown, right? You can definitely recognize it. Like, you can definitely recognize it by a glance. Hunt Showdown has its unique, very standing out, because it's ultra realistic in some ways. It's an ultra realistic, gritty shooter game in which there's a specific art style of a specific timeline with the specific monsters. Everything is very pronounced and unified in that. That I can agree, that is cool. That is timeless. That is always going to be good, I think. Same if you turn the crank on the other side, the cartoony stuff. Again, WildStar. Again, League of Legends has its own thing. What else? World of Warcraft. Every single one of those franchises has its own unique style and way of doing things that is recognizable and rememberable. Memorable. I didn't know the word for a moment. Sorry.
This element of MMO design needs to be pushed far more, we need to understand the strengths of player choice in role-play games, the strengths of player interaction and ease of access in multiplayer games,
Yes.
and how they combine within MMOs. Let's start with the basic foundational strength of the RPG genre. We're not going to look at multiplayer yet. Take one
Yes.
of the greatest RPGs of all time, Baldur's Gate, Morrowind, The Witcher 3. They all focus on allowing the player to explore a variety of gameplay styles and taking on challenges with a slight personal touch. Are you focusing on magic or melee, light armor or heavy armor? Are you slow and calculated or brash and aggressive? But beyond that, they are designed so the player gets to experience the strength of the game relatively early on.
Yes, that's I think that's the biggest thing. If you play Witcher 3, you're gonna play Witcher 3 for the story and for the awesome monster slaying, right? You get it immediately. You get the story, you get the previous situation that happened, and you immediately get monster slaying. You attack the griffin, you go and hunt some other monsters. You get your horse. You get acquainted with the combat, with both the combat with the smaller enemies and combat with the bigger enemies. It just immediately throws you into it, and after that you are able to play however you want, like however you want. There is the magic style, there's the sword style, there's all that stuff, but it just throws you in, right?
If the game is focused on narrative choices like Baldur's Gate, you'll be making narrative choices quickly. If
Yes.
it's focused on tracking and hunting monsters like in The Witcher 3, you'll be
Also, one game I think that is basically a triumph in terms of game design and pulling you in right away is Monster Hunter World. You are from the very first minutes of the gameplay. You are introduced to what is happening. The expedition, right? Expedition. Go. Create character. Go. Introduce important NPCs that will be somehow figuring that will be actually appearing throughout the story. Go. Right. You encounter big Leviathan right away. You get crashed into it. You learn how to move, how to orient yourself within the world right away. That is a very in-lore reason for you to do this shit. You need to move, you need to escape. That is a very in-lore reason. You immediately land in you immediately get the look on the map, on the huge map that is going to be the setting for your game, right? You land on the place and you go through all this. You encounter monsters, you encounter the wildlife of people, you encounter the best aspects of the Monster Hunter game. You do experience all that, and as a culmination, you land in the camp. That is the main hub for the game, where you learn about weapon creating, the item sets, whatever the hell. It's just a single cinematic go through the best aspects of Monster Hunter as a franchise and showcasing what you need to expect from the game. A lot of people will be hooked right away. Especially people who are not into Monster Hunter at all. They will be hooked right away. That's why Monster Hunter World became such a popular Monster Hunter game. Even it was not mainstream at all before. None Monster Hunter ever was mainstream. It was simple games. It was smaller-ish cult following games. Monster Hunter. You grinded a lot. We are. This is the third video. I watched 2 videos before that. I watched 2 videos before that, and I didn't rabble nearly as much. But yeah, this is why Monster Hunter World became such a popular game, I think.
Hunting a griffin as your first task. If it's about encouraging open world exploration like Morrowind, you'll be sent off to join a guild. These are gameplay elements the game will build on for the rest of the game because they value them. They lay the foundation for the groundwork for what the game will become very early.
If you're gonna play a game called Monster Hunter, you want to hunt monsters. You don't want to go talk to Lord Edwin, the black goat, about a missing apple pie that was taken from him by a scoundrel near the back road of the monster hunting place, right? You want to go hunt monsters.
Put simply, if an RPG game knows that its endgame experience is a certain type of gameplay, it will prepare you as a player for that type of gameplay from the start. It may even use a more toned-down, simplistic version of that gameplay as the training itself.
Yes.
There's a reason that single-player RPGs don't pad themselves out with kill 10 of this or collect 10 of this, because they know that design is padding and not necessarily engaging.
Yes.
If the game itself is a giant challenge, everything it will give you is preparation and training to take on that challenge at the end.
Yes.
MMORPGs have great challenges at the end game.
But none of the game itself ever leads to it. You do learn about the combat mechanics, you do learn about everything involved in it, like you will learn about the characters. If you pay attention, you might even learn about the world and about the quests inside, about all the systems which are fucking... Oh, there is so much system bloat. I just can't even talk about it at this point. I talked about it previously, but there's so much system bloat sometimes. Even like I still remember trying out Lost Ark, right? I tried out Lost Ark. The amount of fucking shit I have to keep in mind for after a while. I just checked in, after I started playing. There was this bonus quest, this side quest, this relationship mechanic. I need to do items in mind. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to keep combos in mind. I need to go this map. I need to go open world quest there. Do I need to fish? Do I need to fish? It's just so... I don't know. It's a bloat. To me, it's a bloat. It's not good. It's a bloat. It's bloat.
It's just such a shame that the early and mid-game experience is less about preparing for the challenge and more about wasting the player's time until they reach the challenge.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. That is exactly what I was saying. I guess a lot of MMO design ultimately has to do with it has to do with trial and error. Because when you implement a system, like if you can patch it out, but still you still implement it because it might be cool. Like it might be cool. It might be cool in theory, but after you patch it out, it becomes irrelevant, right? But the system is still in the early content. So a lot of people a lot of systems so you have a choice. You can take out the system entirely, which will take out the gameplay, which is complicated. Or you can keep the system in until a certain point, and after which it becomes obsolete, right? People will play the game, but that might exist as a danger. People will play the game, experience those systems, experience that bloat of systems that is happening inside all of these things. And they will go, why is this so bloated? Why is this so fucking thing? So many fucking things. Like, why is that? Why is there so much shit there? Right? And that will be kill 100 fools from 160. They then have to know how to properly pull boards, attack, manage to... Yeah. I don't really... a lot of MMOs in recent years don't even really encourage playing in parties, right? What's the reason to play in parties? Can you tell me a single reason to play in parties? Like a single reason. Find a reason to play in parties in World of Warcraft. What's the reason? Open world. Find a reason to play in party in Lost Ark. But I'll go further. Find a reason to play in party in Final Fantasy XIV. There's none. That, but other than that, other than helping someone push through the tedium, other than that, anything, single reason. I can't really find first party dungeons. I guess that could be it. Good idea, actually. That will actually force people to play together, which is good. But yes, just think about it. What's the fucking reason to play together? Yes, that's how I talk.
Now let's look at some of the more popular multiplayer games, not necessarily RPGs, just multiplayer experiences like Minecraft, Fortnite, or League of Legends. In this footage, specifically me playing Fall Guys. Bear with me, this does make sense. I believe
Amazing.
one of the greatest strengths of these games is you can invite your friends to play and be playing with them
Yes.
almost immediately.
Yes.
You tell them about an awesome new game you found or a game you've played for years, they download it, and then you're gaming together. You may be highly skilled, they may be a beginner, or you may both be beginners, but you can play together. And here's the important touch. You can both do the thing that the game is good at or is known for quickly. You can build in Minecraft. You can start shooting in Apex Legends.
You can start shooting in Fortnite. You can play solo in Fortnite, whatever you want. You can start shooting immediately. You just jump into the game and you play the game, and the game is pushing what you need to be gaming. There is no blood, and yet, despite that, oh my God, people still play them. People still play Apex Legends, even though it's basically repeated the same thing over and over and over. Mind blown. Maybe, just maybe, MMOs should consider the fact that if you have a really good content loop, if you have a really good amount of shit to do, people will just play the thing over and over because it's fun.
These games do not make you play through hours of early content before rewarding you with their best. For example, with Fall Guys, it took me about 30 seconds from launching the game to finding a game and playing with the community. Now, I know that MMORPGs are much more complicated.
Yes, obviously.
Here is the multiplayer aspect of playing with other people easily. And now I'd like to ask a simple question. When you're talking to your friends about MMORPGs that you have played, reliving the epic adventures that you have had, and you're trying to convince them to come and play with you, what kind of things do you talk about? Now, I broadly see people bring up two main topics when trying to advertise their MMO experience. Either difficult achievements they have worked toward and completed, which they're proud of, like killing a boss or finally getting a rare achievement, finishing a jumping puzzle, or crafting a mythic item, which would make sense because the RPG element is designed to value this progression. Or they talk about multiplayer experiences they've had with friends, from chilled, relaxed evenings chopping trees and fishing.
Role plays, fishing, relaxing with friends, giant boss encounters, finishing raids, all this stuff that is not available to a person who starts. Like, it generally isn't. You need to have a certain amount of levels in a certain amount of things, right? You need to be a certain amount of levels. You need to do something in a game before the game opens up to you and gives you more access to other systems. It's kind of
together, or more dramatic evenings delving into dungeons or hunting rare loot in dangerous places, which makes sense again because MMOs are multiplayer.
Nothing about it is newbie
Powerful
friendly.
Anecdotes, though, are often combinations of both of them. Overcoming difficult challenges with your friends, like beating a boss together. When you're trying to convince your non-MMO playing friends to come and join you, you will tell them about all the amazing stuff that you can go and do together.
Yes.
Multiplayer experiences such as dungeons and raids. But what then happens when that person joins the game for the first time and realizes they are hours, days, in some cases weeks away of both the experience and being able to team up with you? More often than not, when a new friend joins a new MMORPG, they now have to go through hours and hours of early game before reaching the fun bit that you were talking about or that you are at. And it's very hard to keep the energy and enthusiasm of, yeah, it's going to be amazing, we're going to go on adventures together, when you know you're following it up with, but first, several hours, possibly weeks, of early game grind.
Yeah. When you don't, I think in a lot of ways the level sync thing is pretty cool. When you kind of can at the very least, you can join your fledgling player in an MMO in a Final Fantasy XIV. You can join the fledgling player and actually watching, and actually playing the game, and it'll be like, oh, this cool boss. Look at this cool boss here. Look at this cool challenge here. Look at this cool trial here. Like, right? Okay. You can help them pass through this shit, but the open world stuff isn't really as tedious in Final Fantasy XIV because there's a lot of like story behind it. There's a lot of like actual actual content behind this instead of like being okay. I'm just gonna go kill 10 bear asses. I mean, you still do that. You still collect stuff and do fetch quests and kill 10 bear asses. But at least there's some purpose to that, ish, I guess. So that isn't as tedious.
I had this exact experience when I tried to invite new friends to play essentially any MMORPG with me. The realization that if I stayed on my high-level character, they were hours away from anything we could do together relevant to both of us. And
Yes.
if I started a new character, we would both be hours away from anything remotely challenging worth teaming up on. Now, this is an issue with the linear nature of constant power gain in an RPG set in a multiplayer world. If you balance content for a certain power level, it is impossible below and irrelevant above. You're essentially creating brackets of gameplay experience, and
Yes.
if both players aren't in the same bracket, they can't enjoy the game together. Imagine the impact on early game player retention if multiplayer games like Apex Legends or Minecraft or Fortnite or even League of Legends simply did not let high-level and low-level players play together. And if both players start again as low-level, they must both go through hours of early game experience.
Nobody would play it.
Before the multiplayer challenge.
Nobody will play it.
The MMO
Nobody will play Apex Legends if you have to like play with bots for days, until for many matches. If you have to play with bots for many matches, right? Nobody will play it. At least pretend they're not bosses, bots.
The RPG style gameplay with the online multiplayer element, and ironically, it does neither of these very well in the early to mid game.
That's funny.
If your end game is dungeons, raids, and bosses, and your early game is 8 to 20 hours of fetch quests and kill X quests, you have not laid the foundation for what will eventually become your core gameplay loop, and so you can't teach the player the relevant skills they need to succeed within that gameplay loop.
I guess that's something else also. Why you keep spanning Yuga Booga? I'm going to talk however much I want to. I'm going to talk however much I want to. I'm here. You're here. You're here not to watch the video. You're here to watch me, please. Please let me talk. I want to talk. I have a lot of things to say. Don't spam my chat, man. Don't spam my chat. Oh my god. Okay.
And if you're trying to team up with your friends and you can't until you've played many hours of single player experience, then you're going to fall to the wayside against multiplayer games that encourage people teaming up from the very start.
A lot of people say like, "Oh, I don't want to be forced to team up to do this content. I want to play this alone." Why are you playing an MMO? Why? Why are you playing an MMO? Why are you playing an MMO if you don't want to play with anyone? I was the offender. I know that. I stopped playing MMOs because I didn't play with people. But I want to. I want to play with people. That's my thing. I want to get to know people. I want to try to get to like in the roleplay scene. I want to try to get like understand the community. Why do you play the game if you don't want to play with the community or friends or anyone? Why waste your time on MMO? You won't get like super amazing experiences for every time, every second of your playing. You're most likely going to brain deadly run around for like 10 hours. It's not like it's it's another part of it that sometimes it's hard to catch up. Yes, it's very hard to catch up. If you have friends, yeah, that's part of the problem in the game design of MMOs. That you need to catch up. They can't just come to you and play with you, right? Because that content to them is irrelevant. Why would they play it? I don't really know. I guess again, you can at least do you can at least do the bare minimum of allowing someone to de-level themselves temporarily to partake in early game challenges, right? Like okay, Final Fantasy XIV, I already mentioned it. You can de-level yourself. Like Lost Ark, when I tried to get into it, they were able to much more, and it became a chore. Yes, Lost Ark suffers from a lot of feature bloat that really confuses you on what to do and what to level up and what to do stuff with. And I just kind of dropped it after a while. It just became just I don't really like that. Thank you for the hydrate, Leho. I'm gonna sip some water. I sipped some water. Oh fuck.
You're not playing to the strengths of the RPG, and you're not playing to the strengths of a multiplayer game. So how do we fix this? Well, one solution would just be to boost the new player to maximum, level scale them up to their friends and let them go and do a raid. This way their friend doesn't lose any progress and it skips the early game irrelevant grind and makes playing together effectively instant. But doing this brings up one of the most overlooked aspects of multiplayer content. It is remarkably scary for a new player to be thrown into multiplayer content with a level of responsibility you have not been trained for.
Yes. A perfect example. One of the streamers who played Final Fantasy XIV. That's a good segue. Amazing segue for it. One of the players, one of the streamers who played, I don't remember, Quinn69, right? He played Final Fantasy XIV, and he immediately decided to do the WoW thing and just skip to the end, right? Yes. And he decided to skip at the end, and he decided to level to pay for the level skip thing for his samurai, right? And he skipped at the end, and he skipped to the end content, and he decided to participate in the challenge. It was even either a raid or something like that, or maybe a trial. I don't remember. First, no, he has no idea about the mechanics of that raid or challenge, because he hadn't participated in that challenge, in that trial, in the earlier game. He hadn't tried the easier version of that game. He had not played his class. He does not know mechanics. He does not know anything. He does not know how classes function. He does not know how the what's the jargon of the game. He does not know the roles in general, how the party composition acts within the game. So he fucking sucks ass. He sucks ass as a samurai because he has no idea what he's doing. Even though he skipped to the end game, he has all the stats, all the stuff, all the items that is supposedly there to defeat the big enemy and are supposedly there to do all the heavy lifting. He still sucks ass. He dies immediately. He blames the game for it. I disagree. In this particular issue, I disagree. Because Final Fantasy, at the very least, has entire class quests based around learning how to play the class. It has the entire, it has story trials with all the primals, in which you play a much easier version of that boss, and after which you can then learn the mechanics, and then you can go much harder. You can go ultimates, you can do savages, whatever the hell, right? You will probably die on a few times on savages and ultimates and everything, but you will know the mechanics and you will play through it and you will play easier, and then you will have the big prestige stick of doing this. But you at the very least, the game prepares you for it. The game teaches you all the basics. The game teaches you all the mechanics. The game teaches you how to play a class through a particular set of quests related to classes, through the story, through everything. It teaches you how to do this. It prepares you for the end game, which is this. And even like when it comes to crafting, you can immediately go apply to crafting classes after you finish some mandatory class thing, right? Level 15, which you can just breeze through. I know you can breeze through all of it. I watched someone do that. It took someone I know around a week or so to level up all the starting classes to level 30. Right? All of them to level 30. Pass through all the quest line, it took them a week. It's not that bad. All of them, not one. Single one took like a day. And all of them took a week. or something like that. I don't remember.
The pressure of knowing other people are relying on you when you don't know what to do is quite intense. And when I say don't mean what to do, I don't mean specific boss mechanics. I mean a foundation understanding of your class, role, and skills.
There's not a lot of it.
Your team.
If you're gonna skip the game to try to play the end game, you're gonna suck because you don't know how to play the game. But a lot of MMOs don't even teach you how to play the game, in the sense that to prepare you for the final challenges of the game. So you're kind of stuck both ways, I think, in a lot of ways.
Traditionally, the tank will use taunts to grab the trash mobs and then pop some mitigation while DPS burns them down. But if you've been leveling a tank class and the early RPG experience is kill X, collect X, and talk to NPCs, you won't have experienced needing to taunt, mitigate, or manage aggro for other players. A similar thing happens for healers. Healing yourself is very different to healing others, and knowing to prioritize the tank is something that we all take for granted, but a new player won't know. Even DPS players know you need to focus the enemy healers first, or the fight is going to be longer. But common sense to us is actually years worth of solidified knowledge and is not obvious to a new player. So what we can ideally start looking at is a low stakes but highly educational experience.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool if you have like these big raids, right? Where that were made maybe in lore as this sort of big training exercise for whatever faction you are a part of. That would be kind of cool. You have this big training exercise with big veteran players testing your mettle. Like big bosses are basically the big parts of your faction, whatever it may be. Like big company or just big parts of big people of some faction that is hosting this training tournament, and you have to fight these big cool bosses that basically teach you how to play and are not really going all out. So it's justified in lore why you're fighting them on such a low level, because they're teaching you how to fight. They're teaching you how to be better. It would be a really cool raid. It would not be underwhelming at all, I think.
Within the early game of an MMORPG that new players and old players can access together, that will place them both onto a relatively simple, level playing field, potentially scaling the higher players down to make sure they're not overpowered.
Scaling the player down has already been tested and it works.
New players' foundation knowledge of what the end game is going to become. It will allow them to experience their class and their role and responsibility within a
Good luck with that,
hopefully giving them the
Castle.
confidence to step away from this training dungeon into a more complex, difficult endgame experience.
Yeah. As long as you make everything about these dungeons and raids a learning experience for the later, and as long as it isn't like Dark Souls level of frustratingly difficult, I think it will serve as good training wheels for people who never played MMOs before. I think speaking about that, if you really think about it, this kind of game design is a reason why a lot of people, when they want to play an MMO, they go at YouTube. They immediately go to YouTube and like guides how to play, how to level up this, what as mechanics play in this boss fight, because the game doesn't explain it. People don't explain it to you in the game. They want you to kill 10 bear asses. They don't explain to you why you need to do this, why you not need to stand in this red circle, and why you need to stand in that red circle. Nobody explains that. You will go in to what that red button do, and you suck ass. And you go, oh, okay, so that's what that red button do. And you go again, and you go and you play because nobody explains you to anything. You will go play, even the basic fundamentals of the mechanics. Nobody explains to you. No game ever explains it to you. No MMO ever explains to you the basics of mechanics. You gotta just go through it and understand it, right? Just okay. So you go again. You avoid that red button so it doesn't kill you. Don't sack ass. And then you run into yellow button, and you don't know that you're supposed to be standing in that yellow button because the previous experience of your play in the game indicated that these buttons are not supposed to be stood in. So you suck ass because you didn't stand in that yellow button. You go, okay. It's a rinse repeat.
Doesn't need need to be anything complex within the narrative of the world. Maybe the king is recruiting for guards and has created a training course where players can navigate some dangerous terrain, fight some trash mobs, and then kill a boss, and you've got a variety of enemies, healers, ranged damage dealers, crowd control mechanics.
Yes,
And
yes,
as
yes,
you
yes.
progress through, there are NPC trainers explaining the situation to you and which of your specific skills you will need to complete this challenge most effectively.
Yep.
You are effectively hiding a class and dungeon tutorial within the narrative of learning how to be a guard. This training dungeon doesn't need to be super complex, it just needs
course,
to be challenging
of course.
enough for a new player to feel trained, tested, and then rewarded. And hey,
Yeah.
if you're still nervous about your role within a group with other players, this dungeon can have AI-controlled bots filling the roles you're not playing, and you could have them explaining why they're doing what they're doing so you understand their roles as well.
Again, it's not a complicated thing to implement. None of it is a complicated thing to implement. Compared to a lot of the endgame dungeons and raids with so much super uber complicated mechanics, uber complicated game design, all these massive, really cool arenas, none of it is complicated.
And if you're still unsure about the potential for this system, consider this. A maxed level player will often finish a new dungeon or raid having fought side by side with their friends, then they'll sit back and think, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Because that is what their game can be. Now, as a new player, what moments have made you sit back and think, that was awesome?
No, nothing.
It's unlikely to be the 15th kill 15 bears quest, and yet this is the vast majority of early game experiences.
Yep.
If new players cannot have engaging, awesome experiences,
I don't think that this needs to be like a badge of honor that you went through all this boring shit. No, it's not a badge of honor. You just really had a lot of time and nothing else interesting to do. So you just farmed some mobs in the background as you stared at it for the entire day, and that's not an achievement. None of it's an achievement.
with their old friends because there's no content bracket they both share, or
Yeah, it's just boring shit you did, because apparently you're resilient enough to go through boring shit. Congratulations.
they're too nervous to level boost, they will try to convince their old friends to start new characters. And if the old friends kindly do this, they'll then realize those awesome multiplayer moments are hours and hours away, replaced by the not very awesome experience of grind, which is a shame. Let's look into combining the strengths of the RPG, foundation experiences building into greater challenges, and the multiplayer elements of multiplayer games, easy to join groups, by building the endgame foundation from the start and letting players experience it together. Your game shouldn't begin at endgame. It may become extremely challenging at endgame, that's fine, that's actively encouraged, but it needs to start preparing the players for that challenge from the beginning.
Because if it doesn't prepare anyone for the challenge, even like a challenge that doesn't really come along to like raids and dungeons, even if it's a challenge that you personally set up for yourself, in that you want to craft the biggest thing in the world, you want to craft the best item, you want to fish, you want to get fishing to maximum level, you have to push all of these things onto a player for them to choose from. In the very, very early stage of gameplay, very early, at the very least, introduce them to them. Make sure they understand what it is. Make sure that they understand how it works. Make sure accessing it's as easier as going to talk to someone and being like, "Oh, I'm gonna be that," and equipping an item or something like that. I don't know. Just make it easy. Make it easy to get into. If you don't, people most likely will never stick to it. And if people will never stick to it, there will be not a lot of fresh blood in the game. And if there will be not a lot of fresh blood in the game, old players will eventually get bored and move on. And when the old players move on, the game dies.
New players want to look at the most challenging content like dungeons and raids, stuff they can't do yet. And then they want to look at what they're currently doing and be able to see relevance or connection. They want to hear the amazing stories from their friends and then go have similar adventures or experiences, knowing they are working toward them. If your game ultimately becomes something because that something is the best your game can be, then versions of that something need to be available for all players throughout the game.
Yeah.
The MMORPG is a fascinating genre, which more often than not, unfortunately,
Okay. I will tell. Oh well, thank you for saying me that. Give me a moment. Look at this.
combines the weaknesses of
How
all
about
of its
that?
individual parts, when instead it needs to start combining the strengths.
How about
The
that?
strengths of the RPG being you can create your own character, your own class, your own series of answers for the questions and challenges the game is going to throw at you. And the strengths of the multiplayer element, the ability to go on this adventure with your friends or with the rest of the community at large, available extremely early in the game.
Everything needs to be a building experience. I think everything needs to be a building experience. So, like a puzzle, you unveil the puzzle for this harder puzzle. You need to unveil that harder puzzle, right? Obviously, it doesn't need to scale infinitely. There doesn't need to be a puzzle that is only solvable by a hypercomputer that is spread across the entire room. But obviously, some escalation is needed in any game, especially in MMO. You need escalation of PvP, escalation of dungeons and raids. Instead, what the games choose to do is have 10 kill 10 bear asses and return their pelts to the Bobby the ass slayer, Bobby the ass hunter, who will give you some meaningless trinket that will clog your item menu for the rest of the game, because you will be like, oh, well, is this needed? Do I need this item? Maybe I need this item. Maybe I will eventually need this item. I don't want to throw this item. I don't want to throw this item out. This item. I don't want to throw out this item. I don't want to throw this potion. Maybe I'll need this. No. Maybe this is important, because nobody explains it to you that this is not important. This is not at all important. None of it is important. What you will get at like level 50, level 60, that will be important. But yes, hunt 3 more bear asses and return to Joe, the ass hunter, for more meaningless trinkets that will literally never be used anywhere. That's the game. Amazing game.
Group content is vital to the survival of an MMORPG. Group content should not be a reward for enduring the early solo content. Group content should be a vital and accessible part of your game from the start.
I mean, yes, it's such a simple thing to say. Like, it's so ridiculous. It should be such a simple concept for people to understand that having a boring gameplay at the beginning isn't a good thing. It's never is a good thing. It's never is a thing that, oh, but if you go through all this shit, you will eventually you will stumble into this cool raid that needs to be done only after grinding for 50 hours, and only then you will be able to critique the game. No, I think the game is boring as shit, and I don't want to play it. I don't want to play. I don't want to slay 110 at bear asses, and I don't want to give them money to skip their game. No, I will never give them money to skip the game, because this is bullshit. I want to play a game and not skip the game. This is end game. There is a very specific word there. End. There needs to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. Kids fairy tale explanation time, storyboarding time. That everything needs a beginning, a middle, and the end. The end is not the focus. The end is culmination of everything that was before. Why is such a simple concept not understandable? No, I'm not gonna play your stupid ass game for 100 hours. I'm not. Everything needs personality. Everything needs some sort of charm. Everything needs a good gameplay. If you have an MMO, you need to have good gameplay. And I don't mean about intensely clicking buttons in order to succeed. I mean everything around it. Quest design, raids, dungeons, party up. You need to have something in there that will make you maybe make you consider that, hey, maybe I should team up with someone. When I played Lost Ark, right? I went through the dungeons, right? I went through the early dungeons that presented to the people. Most likely story. I never, not even single one time, I felt the need to go out into the world and say, hey, can someone help me out and fight this boss? Because every single time I went through them like a breeze, alone, no matter how hard they were. I never died, not a single time. I just went through all of them, faced all the bosses, kind of just punched them around a little bit, and it was boring. When you have From Software's game design, right? You play you. I know not a lot of people overall enjoy it. They don't really enjoy being thrown into the gutters right away. But you have to say you have to admit that at the very least, Elden Ring does what Elden Ring tells you to. You need to you get thrown in, you fight some enemies, and they get progressively more challenging as you go. There is an escalation there. They're already hard in the beginning, but they're hard in order to prepare you for what is to come, which is more hard, even harder. And you slowly progress through the all of that. It's not a grind. Every single fight can be a fight for survival. Every single fight is challenging. You can die in every single fight if you are not careful. Even a simple soldier camp that you go into can massacre you in seconds if you're not prepared for it. That's just how it is. That's their game design. They're consistent about it. And very unapologetic, if I have to be completely honest about it, and I like it. I like it. Okay, let's finish the video.
But what do you think? Should dungeons and raids be available from early in the game, or should they remain a reward for finishing the rest of the game? Are they a useful training tool?
Yes.
Or should players know what they're doing before even joining? Let me know in the comments below. Cheers for watching. Another massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon
I don't think so.
and Twitch who keep...
I really don't think so. Why does a player need to have consumed in some external guides in order to play a game? Is this 2004? Is this 2003? Where there were like big thick instruction manuals for shit that came with the game, right? You remember that, right? Anyone here older than 20 something, you thick ass instruction manuals, right? That you got with the game always, and you just flip through them and gotta watch all the insert this code if you want to this or do this. If you want to get infinite money, or like explain the this puzzle was basically designed to be bullshit. We just want you to read this book in order for you to understand how this works and go through the puzzle. This is though they still were at least these my manuals. At least they came with the game. At least the people who made those manuals, they packaged them into the game, into the disc when you bought the disc. Yes, they sucked ass. And now suddenly it became more acceptable when the guides are not even done. When the guides are not even done by the company itself. They don't even bother to release guides themselves, and they just expect that some random schmuck with a YouTube channel. No, I'm talking about the manuals and the thick ones as well. But at least the manuals came with the game, right? Still, like, at least they don't even release the guides to come along with the game anymore. They just expect some random Joe to actually legitimately play through the game, suck ass repeatedly on something, right? They probably spent hours sucking ass on each of them, one of these mechanics, which are not explained. They spend their own time, the random Joe spend their own time recording a video about it and explaining how everything works and posting it on YouTube. And meanwhile, the fucking people. Yeah, there were the third-party ones. I'm speaking about but I'm still speaking about the manuals right now. I know about the third-party ones, and the gameplay and the game designers just kind of brush their hand, going, "Okay, we don't need to do anything, right?" There was a problem, if I'm not mistaken. There's a problem in the WoW raiding scene, WoW dungeon and raiding scene, where the game is so riddled with extensions and helpers and guides that the game devs at this point are just designing these things in uber hard manner, so you are required to have these guides and extensions and everything just to not die, because they just don't really give a shit about explaining anything, and they introduce bullshit mechanics that are needed, that you need to have an extension for, because otherwise you'll just suck repeatedly. And people don't care about you sucking and don't care about you not having these extensions. They will most likely pressure you into installing those extensions if you want to play competitively in the raid scene. They will pressure you. All you will get a bunch of shitty ass 14-year-olds screaming at you for not installing this expansion and extension and not playing good. Get good. You know, like the worst, the worst of the Dark Souls fandom.
Keep the channel alive. You can support from only £1 a month. Check.
If you that's a thing. That's an actual thing. If you do that again, I'm just gonna time you out for now. Wow. That is dumb as hell, but that is a thing. I heard that from Asmongold. I checked it a bit. I checked again myself, and yeah, that's a thing. There are some raids in that are just so dumb and so unfair that you are required to have this shit, which is that is just shitty ass design. That is just shitty design.
The video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, and Discord. And as always, have a great day.
And then people wonder why the actual WoW community is such a toxic mess. Because everyone wants to win this fight, and when people try to play actually how they want to play, you will get a bunch of people who are affected by you playing non-optimally. About people who are playing non-optimally, and when people play non-optimally, they suck ass, and them sucking ass ultimately loses the raid, wipes the raid for people who are playing optimally, right? And you have this entire scenario in which you have so much mechanics that basically punish you for losing. So if you lose, if you get in a raid, you lose a key you use for raiding. Like there's a special key you need for these raids and stuff, and you lose them. You lose it if you wipe or something like that. Obviously, people are gonna fucking get pissed because that's a resource lost for nothing. So that's why it's toxic as fuck. It's inherently punishing. It's not challenging. It's punishing. And devs don't want, and people are both devs and players are perpetuating that punishment and unfairness and stupidness by all that BS. And that's basically what World of Warcraft's raiding scene. It's bullshit. Is what it is. Is what it is.